Hello, so I am Andy Gardiner, and with John, I make up the other half of Society of Strays.
Hi, yeah, my name's John. I work with Andy with Society of Strays.
Today, both of us are going to talk to you in a vlog sort of style how we have been making characters and how we develop characterization in the videos which we've been making during our life in lockdown. So the videos are an extended part of our R&D. We were supposed to go into further research and development this year for an idea we began around this time last year called Existing Alone Together at Dance City in Newcastle.
Sought inspiration from a play, Waiting for Godot, which is about two men who are kind of in space or in purgatory, waiting for something, but they don't know what they're waiting for. So it's this idea of being in this sort of endless time frame of waiting, but they don't know what for.
The other was Dante's Divine Comedy, which we were specifically looking at Purgatory, which is the second sort of the second book within those within that three-part trilogy. There was this particular interest in for us in the companionship in these works as these characters traverse the sort of purgatory state that they're in, or the journey they have to go through for enlightenment somehow. And with Godot, it never seems to happen. It never seems to really get there through the character's own making. They choose to wait to be told what to do or what the next direction is, which is um, absurd in its in within the text and its setting, but also quite a genius metaphor for us as mankind. Other inspirations for absurdity with regards to film have been Yorgos Lanthimos, film director, which did the more recently The Favourite, The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and the sort of characters and situations and metaphors he puts those characters into play out, and also how he marries the editing, the music to really create, and the locations to really create these scenes for these characters.
That kind of tied in pretty well with what's going on now in a way, because we sat with this idea and then all of a sudden we were separated, and then the pandemic came along and we found ourselves in a pretty much kind of a state of purgatory because we didn't know when it was going to end. It became pretty relentless. So I ended up working at the post office, and then I also started doing this building job, which is where I'm talking to you from now. And then Andy started working at Sainsbury's, he started making bread, and we realised we were in a real life purgatory state, and the sorting office is a never ending situation. So these letters just keep on coming in and they never sort of finish. So you're in this sort of like weird sort of graveyardy sort of place which never stops.
Similarly to the characters in the other works that we're inspired by, there's this like monotonous day that literally is Groundhog Day on repeat. Nothing really changes. It's the same menial tasks every day in, day out, and it was something that we sort of aren't used to in our lives.
When it comes to like developing characters and stuff, a lot of our work's kind of observational. So in the sorting office, there was lots of characters and lots of different people crammed into this room, and we like to take little snippets of people's personalities, people that we meet on the street every day, and kind of botch them into these sort of characters.
We're in workplaces where there's obviously very varied opinions to some of the ones that we used to as well, which has actually been just a great thing to sort of harvest and reap loads of research from that, and in a way to champion in it. It's to champion it rather than it is to criticize it. And it's not a commentary on the fact that we we're judging that. It was that sort of wasn't enough for us, so how could we work with that as a feeling of our own purgatory, but also within the monotony monotony of these worlds, these real characters exist. So we began to start looking specifically at their at people's conversations, interactions with others.
Instead of making these sort of flawless characters, we take people who we see right in front of us, and we kind of take inspiration from them. Really fascinating people of all different walks of life, as opposed to being in the dance studio where you kind of, I mean, as great as everyone is, you're kind of always surrounded by people who are like-minded, making characters which were slightly more had slightly more depth. Because before this, we had like a few sessions in the studio. If you want to kind of take inspiration from other people or from everyday life or observational sort of inspiration, other than watching films or watching television, which we love a lot of telly, popular culture sort of telly that really helps with characters as well.
I've been working on a character called LP. He definitely has a sound of little voice mixed with a northern brashness of Keith Lemon, and also somewhere sat within that is my history teacher, Miss Nash, and this is hilarious that she came back into my mind. But it was again watching something on history, and I was like, "Oh, my history teacher! Oh, what would she have said about this?" Because she was in herself what we consider now a stray, which is when we consider a stray, it's like, oh, this person would be, or the facet of this person would be great to put into this absurd character.
The absurd is literally right in front of you. You know, you see it on the high street and in the sorting office. There's a lot of absurd but beautiful characters. The same on the building sites as well. So actually, what we found is that the pandemic actually really helped because it forced us to be in these areas that we were interested in or that we were taking inspiration from.
I have been watching as well 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown, and Countdown as well I am also a fan of, so somehow autobiographically there's something that feeds into the characters as well, so there's always sort of a hook in it also relates to us in some way as well. You've got Susie Dent finding these incredible words. And I was like, well, of course, LP is also a Susie Dent enthusiast because she's super intelligent, and he of course loves the dictionary. So it was just an idea that came. So this also fits in somehow to a character, or becomes another facet of the character to give it sort of a hook or a way in, or something that's relatable to other people through like a pop culture reference like Countdown.
So I think it's really helped us to kind of bring these characters outside as opposed to being locked in a boxy studio.
We track the pandemic on a weekly basis as well, and some sort of ideas that come up in the news, or this also ever-changing landscape of information that we get, conversations that you hear on things like Question Time, TV programs, the news, has also become slipped into some ideas of improvisation that we do around text ourselves altogether, and then that becoming also a strong basis for building a character, make it a bit more realistic. I have all these facets of these different things. I throw them into absurd scenarios and locations, and what comes out of that? Can we channel it into something that makes sense, basically, and or doesn't make sense as well, which is more often than not the case. But also there's some sort of beauty for us in that non-naturalistic way of presenting these people.